Welcome to Slingshot Disc Golf. Today we are going to have a conversation here in the film room about the hips and why you're probably not engaging them like an athlete. But before we start, I want to tell you about a live stream that I am doing, a live Q&A in my Discord community on Wednesday, October 18th at 4 p.m. Pacific time. All you have to do is join my Discord community. I'm going to leave a link in the description. I'm going to pin a comment with a link as well. You join that, you hop in there on Wednesday, and I'm going to be doing just a Q&A. So if you want to ask me any questions right here in my living room with my 3 dogs that'll probably start barking at any time right behind me, ask me whatever you want. But also, more importantly, before I start answering questions, I'm going to do a full in-depth breakdown of Cole Redolin's form. I have some interesting things I want to say about it. You do not want to miss it. So join my Discord community, and hopefully I'll see you at the live stream. So let's talk about the hips. When it comes to disc golf, in my experience, I have learned that there are 2 realities going on. There's the professional disc golfers that we see on YouTube, who are all super athletic, super explosive, and most of them can throw really far. And then there's everybody else, the majority, the actual people who play disc golf, right? The 99%. The 99%, it is very rare that somebody sends me form where they're actually engaging their hips like a professional disc golfer. It's almost like engaging the hips athletically is not even a part of the activity. Outside of the pros we see on YouTube, it is like it isn't even a part of it. So we're going to use one of my students. His name is Stratton. When he first came to me, he was throwing in the 300s, like most of my students when we start working together. And not everybody gets to 500 feet. That's still kind of rare. That is really difficult to do. But he just hit 500 feet the other day. He actually PR'd at 525, I think, during a tournament. I'm not saying he's hitting 500-foot golf lines, but he has found a way to tap into his body to reach those distances in some capacity, right? And that's what happened to me. I was stuck at 300 feet. It turns out, like, people ask me all the time, can you hit a 450-foot golf line? That doesn't matter. I found out that my body is capable of a certain distance, right? And tapping into that is everything to do with the hips. Stratton did use my training program while getting coaching from me. So he's done a lot of my drills. So if we look at that in fast motion, right? Obviously, that's his before. The first thing I do when someone sends me their form is I go right to, I call it the 90 degree, but if it helps you conceptualize it, the power pocket. When your arm hits that power pocket position, which is not a part of the slingshot, but that's not what this video is about, so whatever. I go right to this position, roughly. Sometimes it's a frame, different, whatever. And then I look at the hips. And that tells me everything I need to know. In this clip right here, the first thing I look at is the positioning of this leg. Right now, this is a very obtuse angle. Basically, the leg is straight. This hip is being held back. This leg is not internally rotated, and the top of this shoe and his foot are pointed right here. So basically, his hips are still even with the camera. If you go back a few frames, his hips are still even with the camera. We should see internal rotation happening during these frames, and we don't. We only see the arm come through. This ends up being a straight-legged anchor where that left hip doesn't come through. This is Stratton's 500-foot form. So let's go right to the rough power pocket position right there, 90 degrees. You can already tell that this is way more of an acute angle. I call it the L shape. Top of the shoe is pointed this way a lot more. The knee is down. That left hip is internally rotated. So basically, what you're seeing here is a fully internally rotated leg at the power pocket. Before, his leg was not internally rotated. Now, let me be clear. That's what hip engagement, at least slingshot style, is. Your hip is not engaged until your leg is internally rotated. And if it isn't happening at the power pocket, if it hasn't happened already, then you're not doing it like a professional disc golfer. Let's look at Ezra here. Right now, his hips are not engaged. They are facing the camera parallel. Once he hits that 90 degree, that left hip is internally rotated, he engaged it, but so is the whole leg. Stratton does not have his leg as internally rotated as much as Ezra, so there's a little bit more to be desired, but man, he's on the right track. It's very close. This hip and this leg are not internally rotated. And of course, this is about driving with the back leg. Now I'm going to do an example in my studio here in a second, but I just want you to realize that when you do not use that back leg, you do not get internal rotation at the power pocket. At the end of the day, this is all about muscle recruitment. So my hips are not engaged. The movement from here to here, however it's done, is the hip engagement. So when I explosively turn my hips, and anybody who's seen me throw live knows that I do it pretty violently. Hips aren't engaged, boom, my hips are engaged. My hips went from here to here with the recruitment of my thigh, my glute, my calf, my foot, also my obliques and my stomach. I use all those muscles to engage my hips. Obviously, I am driving down with the back leg, actively driving, internally rotating that whole hip, that whole leg with the force of the ground. I'm not pushing sideways, I am driving in. There's a lot of different cues you can use. Driving with the back leg, dropping the knee, whatever the case may be. If you do not see that internal leg rotation when you get to here, then you did not actively engage your hips like a professional disc golfer or like an athlete at all. The number one thing that people do is they de-weight that back leg. Sometimes on purpose, most of the time on accident, because they're going too fast and they're not actively using it. The moment you de-weight that back leg, you now are not recruiting any of those muscles. And you're recruiting what I call the hip bones right here. Now there is some kind of quick twitchy muscle in there. That's why I can go like this. So I'm quick twitchy right there, but I'm not powerful. There's no power there. So ultimately, when you go to turn your hips, no matter what time you turn them, if you're not using that back leg actively, that's all you're getting. It also makes it a lot harder to engage the core if you don't use the back leg. So you're just relying on those hip bones. You clicked on this video because you don't know how to engage your hips or you're really struggling with it. This could be the simple reason why. I'm gonna grab a disc here. I got this new bolt. Haven't thrown it yet. Looking at your form in slow motion is one thing, but you really need to get to know your form in fast motion. I'm gonna show you what to look for here. When you do not use the back leg, it has a certain look to it. When you use the back leg, it has a certain look to it. I usually use the metaphor of it looks like you're packing a punch. So here's an example of an explosive hip engagement with the use of the back leg, how I do it. Right, it has a certain power to it. Now I'm gonna de-weight the back leg. And it has a certain emptiness to it. So you get to know that. I highly encourage you to look at some of these top professional disc golfers and look at their form in fast motion, the way their leg truly reacts, especially Paul McBeth. Watch that back leg, watch your back leg. Does it look like you're empty or does it look like you have some power behind it? Hopefully this video was helpful. Slingshots for everybody.
Wow.